Should be up. Yep, we're live.
Excuse me.
Wait for it to load here.
Well, I'm still working my way up.
Yeah, we've had some real terrible wind today. I don't know if that's going to mess with. Oh, there it goes.
Oh, we had the loveliest day. Oh, never shut the volume on. Here we go.
Yep, there we go. All right, guys, we're just going to give just a few minutes, like always, just to let people get logged on, and then we'll get started tonight.
We were just talking about you, Aiden. It's got to be our biggest fan Stort on the internet. ANH. Oh, we'll explain that there in a bit.
I'll just give her
waiting for people to come.
Yep. We'll just give everybody just a few more minutes there, so we're not repeating ourselves so much again, and we'll go ahead and get started tonight.
Oh, that's good, NH. That's really, really good. You see now, well, I wouldn't say broke open, but our rivers are starting to open. A fella could actually go and trap a few beaver right now if the season was open.
Yeah, I didn't trap any late season beaver this year, but ours closes the end of this month, so. It's going to turn off cold again too, they're saying, so.
Well, we're supposed to be in the pluses for a couple of days, so.
Yeah, it was 76 degrees here 2 days ago. Crazy how warm. And then it's supposed to get down to freezing here tomorrow night, so. All right, guys, just about 2 more minutes to get logged on, and then we'll get going tonight. Tonight's going to be one of them where anybody wants to chime in. It's going to be very helpful to the chat. So, hopefully we'll have a good turnout for the last one and send her off with a bang, so to speak. All right, and get started tonight. The title says, guys, this is going to be the last Trappers Night live stream that I'm going to do. With the time change and work and things, it's just it's not really working out for me right now. So you know, we had a good run, and you know, we seem to have a pretty good following at this. So most definitely come in the fall again, we'll go ahead and I'll try to fire this back up, and we'll try to do it again. I'd like to get it going all through trapping season. I think that'd be cool to do it. We got started a little late this year, but anyway, I'll make a notice of that. I won't let you know without putting up a video a little bit before. But as I said, this is going to be the last one for now. We'll try to fire back up around November-ish, late fall, once trapping season. Anyway, said tonight's topic, I just titled it "Tools of the Trade." It's a real general topic, so anybody wants to chime in or write in, more than welcome to. We'd love to have that. But basically, what I kind of wanted to discuss was just the general what items have aided you the most in your trapping. Have you made them? Have you bought them? You know, what items have you made? Just different things. You know, it's just we got a lot of people here, and you know, just to share the knowledge of different things, I think would be very beneficial. It could be this thing down to the complex, or something that, you know, would speed up set making, or just make the job of trapping easier. So you guys can think of, let us know. I've got a few things we'll talk about. Timber, I've already seen, he's got some things he'll talk about. So that's going to kind of be the topic for tonight. Started here, and Timber, if you want to start off, you know, what you got?
Well, if you guys watch my videos, you know I make pretty well just about everything myself. You know, my father had a machine shop for many years, and all the tools are there to do anything with. You know, we got like 6 welders and 6 cut-off saws and steel band saws. And I mean, I'm a little bit luckier than most people because I've got all the tools to make what I want. But some things are very, very simple. You know what I mean? If you take this here, take probably an hour for it to come up, maybe. And it is too. Anyway, you can make a safety gripper without a welder. And the conveyor clips, you can make them without a welder. And the same thing with trap setters for conveyors. You can make them without a welder. You don't need a welder for them. The J hooks for the conveyors too, you can make them without a welder. You see, guys, in that safety gripper, there's no welding on there. And anybody can make that themselves. Can't believe it's taking a minute for it to come up after I showed it, but anyway. Anyway, if you look at my videos, you will see lots of things that you can make yourself. And I've seen, Stuart, in one of your videos, you had that little 2-inch auger, and I've been looking around here, and I can't find anything like that. And that would speed up the dirt hole in quite a bit if I could find one. Now, maybe I could order one off eBay, but things are so expensive from eBay to ship to Canada that it's really not worth buying anything. Yes, and catch poles too.
Yeah, those augers, they're just I just use the cheap bulb augers. You know, there's some commercially available from the trapping supply houses, and they might be a little bit more heavier duty, but don't deal with just a ton of rocks. And you know, I've had the one I'm using for 3 years now, and it's suited me well for quite literally hundreds and hundreds of dirt holes. So, and that's another big thing too. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there that, you know, like you said, not only you can make, but you know, improvements that you can make on stuff too. So, you know, there's always something to be improved or modified, or something of that nature in the trapping world.
Like all my disposable
How are we doing, Steve?
I make them all myself. Good evening, Aiden.
Hey fellas, how you doing?
We are good, and you.
Just absolutely awesome. Whoops.
We'll let you get logged on here and get all set up.
Do 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 do.
But anyway, Steve, we were talking tonight more or less is just I titled it "Tools of the Trade" and basically just covers you know uh, what devices or things have you know made things here or most benefited you on the Trapline, whether you made them, bought them commercially, or whatever. That's kind of the topic for tonight. So
All the stuff we spend our money on. Well, some of us don't spend any money, but holy smokes. All the new people that I've subbed from these chats and stuff, I'm having a hard time finding your channel here. There it is.
Yeah, Watson, we can do that for you. All right, guys, disposable or rebar?
I had to switch over
oh yeah,
disposable
and I
just for the lightweight of it.
Well, I have found both of them have their place. You know what I mean? I got equal amounts of both of them, and it's a very, very good question. Start.
yeah, and like I said, well, once again, guys, with this being the last one till November, anything that maybe we haven't covered, I kind of I didn't throw in there, but we're gonna just have a general discussion, also. So any topic also, throw out there, and we'll just kind of bounce back and forth because, like we said, this is gonna be the last one till November. So, we'll try to cover anything else. But as far as rebar versus disposable, I like most people probably I started out with rebar a number of years ago. At the time getting into it, I really had no idea that disposables existed. Uh, this was before the internet and everything else. So that being said, I packed around rebar for a few years, and disposables are the only way to go in my opinion. The only time I use rebar anymore is I use them for the water side anchor on my drowning cables. I still use them for that, and that way I can pull them out easier than a disposable. But other than that, uh, I am all for disposables. And I'd like to mention also too, along the line of staking, I use a lot of fence staples and toggles also in my trapping, and they have a place also. So you can consider that whenever you're thinking about a staking method. Also, a lot of times a fence staple or a toggle is just as easy, if not easier, and faster than a disposable stake is. So, there each definitely has its own, but rebar for me, they kind of get put in the back corner, at least for now.
Yeah, I got kind of tired of toting them around. I mean, you get a bundle of 6 or 7 rebars and they get heavy. And then if you move up to coyotes and start double staking, you're doubling up your weight. And Timber was absolutely right. Certain situations, I have trouble trying to get the earth anchors to hold, like in peat bog or something like that. And usually I just, instead of getting a rebar out and cross staking it, or I'll hook my trap to a drag and go that route.
Yeah, I failed to mention the drags also, Steve, but that's a good point. I personally don't use I don't use any drags of the modern style metal drags. I guess you could consider my toggles. You know, I use tree limbs and such. That is a form of a drag. But as far as
Yeah,
a metal drag, I really don't use any. I live out in the prairie, so I really I really have no use for them. But no, you're right, Steve. They definitely have their place.
how about you, Timber?
Well, I don't dirt hole in open fields or anything like that, and I haven't for many, many years. But when I'm in the Northland on the old tractor roads, I preset my grapples. You know what I mean? I hook them up before I leave, and I run an 8 or 12 feet of cable.
Yeah, I've done that too on a few occasions. Just wrap your grapple up around a tree if you don't want them to get into an open area or something, and it pretty much works the same as a stake. They end up, you know, wrapping themselves up and end up on a short chain, so it all works out pretty decent.
The chain has got unbelievably expensive, you know.
Yeah.
Even wire for tying. It's cheaper to buy cable there now. Here in Canada, anyway. I don't know about the U.S., but
Yeah, here too. Chain's crazy, crazy expensive. All the chain I use is saved from something. Somebody takes down the old style roll-up garage door and has the link chain on it. I'll save it. So
Yeah, and I was just reading through the comments here. Uh, on pulling disposable anchors, I, I have a video coming out that I'm going to show my ways of how I do it, and I'll discuss it here and then I'll let everybody else. But I've got a few different ways that I pull my disposable anchors. I have a basically a modified crowbar is what I can kind of relate it to that I use. It's nothing more than a piece of reinforced 1-inch square tubing with a bigger foot welded on the bottom and a piece of cut chain link that I hook through the swivel on my trap, and you just kind of work it as a fulcrum with leverage. Pull those out. That method there, it works good. It's quick. The tool's not very heavy, but it can be a real pain on your back, especially if you're having, you know, a big pull day. So I've also got a device that I've came up with, and it is basically a tripod with a hand crank boat winch mounted to it. And what you can do is this allows you to set it over top of the set, and you actually winch the disposable stake straight up out of the ground. It takes no amount of effort whatsoever, and you know, it's real quick too. But that being said, it's real awkward to carry around. You're not going to carry it around, so I use it on just pull days or whenever I'm working out of my truck or my UTV. So you know, a lot of times you can pretty much pull them just by hand, but like I said, it's real hard on your back. It's probably not real good for you. But that's on most of my disposables. On my super stakes, I run a secondary cable uh, that will just basically turn the stake vertical again, and I carry a simple hay hook, and you can just pull those right out. That's with the super stakes. You're not going to do that with the Pogo type anchors near as easy, or the Berkshires or anything else. But when you're running super stakes, you can do that. So that's my deal, guys. What about you?
explain a super stake real quick.
Um, I make all my own super stakes. I've bought a few just to get pads of them. I bought a dozen. Let's see, it'd be 3 years ago. It was that first real bad winter, and I was doing a lot of coyote trapping in the frozen ground, and I was having to pre-drill all my pogos. We had about a foot of frozen ground, and I was having to pre-drill through that frozen ground to get my pogos to hold. And I bought a dozen of the super stakes. They're actually made by Minnesota Trap, and basically, essentially, what it is, it's a piece of 3-inch pipe, but you have a cable in the center like a normal stake, and that's what holds. But then on the end next to your driver, you have a second cable. So this second cable, it's the same length generally as how deep you're going to drive the stake, so it's still above the ground. And the idea is that whenever you go to pull that stake, you pull that second cable, and you can imagine that cable stake's in the ground like this. You're pulling this cable from right here. It turns that stake like this, and it pulls back right out of the same hole that it was drove in. It makes it real easy. They're quite expensive to buy. I make all my own now out of 3/4-inch black iron pipe. So the cost is you know, next to nothing now. But whenever you're talking 10 to 12 dozen of them, it takes a lot of time to make them. But that is what I call the super stake. Like I said, it's not my idea by any means, but I've made my own, and they work great.
Cool.
And just to add a little something to that, every state and every province, well, every piece of land's got different ground onto it. And I watched a guy making stakes on YouTube, and he was using 1/2-inch round pipe, and he was cutting them 3.5 inches long. So, stupid me, I said, I might as well cut mine 3.5 inches long too. Anyway, in my country here, when I planted one, I couldn't get to the ground with a jackal. You know what I mean? I had to go down to 1.5 inches so I could get the stake back out, which held plenty anyway. But just saying, if you're going to make your own, make one and try it. You might have to make it a little bit smaller to suit your needs. Unless you're trapping in a swamp or something, then you want her as big as you can get her.
Yeah, I agree. I'm pretty lucky here. I got good soil. There's not too much clay in it. So as far as pulling my stakes, usually I put my stakes right around 18 inches, a little bit more, maybe 20. And they hold good enough, but to get them out, all I need is about a 6-foot piece of 2x3 and a little piece of chain and a quick link, and I can pump them up, pretty easy. So
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, at least me, run my trap line. I trap some rocky creeks. We don't have a ton around here, but it's there. I trap a lot of just swampy mud, and then you go out in the fields and you're talking about solid clay. So the biggest thing for me is to find something that's universal. So I'm not sitting there looking for this doesn't grass over here that's only good cornfields, or this doesn't here that's only good for creek bottoms. And I want something that's a universal system that whenever I grab a trap, or whatever it may be, I know it's going to work in whatever condition that I'm in. So it's another thing it's a speed thing basically, but it does help.
Good evening, Pennsylvania.
yeah, I agree, Coon Creek. The more you can cut back what you need to carry with you, the better off you are. It seems every year I start off with 2 or 3 buckets full of stuff, and by a weekend I got it, weaseled down pretty good to 1 bucket. Trying to get more tools that do more things, so you have to carry less tools.
And about using winches to pull stakes, I had a 2.5-inch conduit, 1/2-inch pipe, and I actually stripped the gears in my winch trying to pull it out. And then I had to rebuild my winch, so I never done that anymore.
Sounds like you need to carry about a 80-pound come along or a chain fall.
Or a 20-foot piece of pipe.
Yeah. Remember, guys, when you're pulling them stakes, lift with your legs, not your back, because that'll pop your back so fast. And sometimes you just got to give up the ghost and cut your cable off below ground and move on.
That's old school, Chris.
Yeah.
Buy yourself some metal. But then if you're paying $10 for a green pepper and $12 for a head of lettuce, I know why you're using wood.
There was a question here, and it was, well, what is a universal anchor? You know, and I just kind of touched on what the best way would be to find a universal anchor. You know, over the years, I went through, countless numbers of anchoring systems, and I've shared this in some videos, but I mean, I feel, and for my area, you got to always take this into consideration. But I feel that I've come up with what I would consider is a perfect universal anchor for me. And like I've showed this, I use a disposable anchor that I have on all my traps, and with that disposable anchor, that allows me to. I've showed the fence staples. I do a lot of using fence staples for toggles and just fence staple into trees and this, that, and the other. Having that disposable anchor there allows me to do that. Number one, it's a disposable anchor, of course. Number two, if I need to make a loop, all I have to do is I carry S-hook pliers with me. I can break that S-hook or J-hook, and I can loop it around, say, a sapling. So I've got a noose type of anchor there. And then simply, if I want to use a fence staple, you've got your fence staple that you just drive in through the cable, and your disposable anchor, locks in as that. So basically, by using the disposable anchors, this gives me the ability to anchor my traps several different ways, without having to change anything. I can pull a half dozen traps out of the truck, and I can go set them, 4 different ways and not have to change, anything except for, carry a few fence staples with me or a pair of pliers. So that's what I would consider a universal type anchoring system for my area, of course. That being said, it could be different elsewhere. So
Yeah, you could just put a fence staple right where the anchor connects to the cable, and it would hold fast, I would imagine.
oh yeah, I mean, I stake. I would say better than 60% of my coon sets with 2-inch fence staples, and it's quick. That's the biggest thing of it. So you just want to make sure whenever you're staking solid like that, you just want to make sure you've got nothing the animal can grab onto, nothing you can get leverage against, and you always want to make sure you have proper swiveling. So at least 3 types of swiveling points would be recommended. But for me, it's all about speed and efficiency. So if you're the weekend guy that you've only got a half a dozen sets out, disposables can be an expense. Go buy you a 20-foot stick of rebar for for $10 or so, and you can make you know several anchors depending on what length you want to use. So I mean, it all goes into each person, but there's definitely ways to be efficient and speedy with the system.
HRM, welcome.
Yeah, a little thing I do with my disposables. Usually when I'm out trapping, I multi-critter trap, and I'm always worried about contaminating my coyote traps. So instead of carrying an extra bucket, when I get out of my truck, I usually have I pre-attach my disposable stakes to my coyote traps, and I'll boil them that way and wax them that way. Usually I let this after the boiling, I won't wax the stake, but use the stake to dip the trap, and then I roll it all up and put the end of the stake into the jaws and drop it into a Ziploc. That way I can keep it clean, in a bucket full of muskrat traps or whatever. It just saves a little time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, I use the same disposables, the 1/2-inch conduit pipe, but I have different lengths of cable. I have 16 and 24, and that's the only ones I use. And if 16 is not enough, I drive a 24. It's always plenty.
Yep.
Yeah, I go 18 inches. That's that's you can in the real soupy ground you can drive the thing all the way. If you're in real hard clay, don't drive it as far. But that for my area, I find 18 inches is that happy medium.
And a little experiment I done, I'll tell you guys about. I got a really big dog, he's a big dog, and I planted a rebar stake 24 inches long in the ground, and it kept him pretty well all day, but he did manage to get it out. And when I put the 24 disposable stake in the ground, there was no trouble. I held them all day, and I could have hooked them up to it the next day too.
Yeah, there's a great tester.
Yeah, and just to clear a few things up, the question was asked, whenever we're talking disposables, what do we mean? And for the new guys, I apologize, but whenever we talk disposable, that is a very general term. You can Google disposable stakes, and there'll be a dozen or better come up. Disposable stakes, they can be left in the ground. The idea, I believe, is that if at all possible, they can be left in the ground. They will eventually rust away and everything. But for the most part of all of us, due to the fact we're cheap and most of the time disposables are fairly expensive, we pull all our disposable stakes. I've got some Pogo anchors that I've had on my 1.5s, and they've been on there for 5 or 6 years. They've probably been drove in the ground, 40 or 50 times. Swap out with a new washer. But the term disposable is a very general term. Most of the time, we all pull them and reuse them.
I wouldn't leave them in farmland in the ground. I would take them all out. But back in the North Country, I leave them in the ground.
Yeah, and just a little hint, guys, if you're trapping hay fields and stuff, and for some reason you can't get your disposable out, make sure you dig down as far as you can and cut that cable off so the farmer won't get it stuck in his hay rake and stuff. Get out of here, cougar.
Pennsylvania, how big were your Pogos? 2-inch, 2.5-inch? All you gotta do is go a couple sizes smaller and you'll have no trouble.
Yeah, or with the Pogos, simply don't drive them as deep. I use Well, up until a couple years ago, I ran Pogos exclusively on everything. Since then, I've been slowly changing some super stakes over to my canine sets, but all my coon sets, all my dog proofs, everything, I still run Pogos, and I run 2-inch Pogos on everything, just because I don't know if I'm gonna get in swampy ground. And if you're out in the field, just don't drive them near as far. Uh, it's real simple. Just I make everything 18 inches if you're out in the field, especially with a coon set. There's no need to drive it the full 18 inches in. Just drive her 10 inches to a foot, and that cable on a coon set, you can bury it real easy. So.
So that's what you could do, Stuart. You could not Stuart pencil tucky. You could either not drive it as far or drop down to 1.5 inches or something, and see what works best for you.
I've never used Pogos before. What's the driver look like? Does it have like a fork on it, and then the washer slides into it?
No, it's just got a slot in the end of it with a little groove cut out for the J-clip.
Gotcha.
Now, where I find a lot of people, if they're making their own Pogo drivers, or what happens a lot is videos on making Pogo anchors. I've got videos on making the drivers. I've got videos on modifying the drivers. Like I said, for a number of years I ran exclusively 2-inch Pogo anchors on 18 inches of 3/32 cable. I mean, you're talking on, I'm running these on. So I mean, I've got what I would consider a pretty knowledgeable experience with them. But what happens is whenever you have that driver, you need to make sure, especially if you're making them, that on the bottom of that driver you make the grooves where the nail can sit in. If you don't have that, what happens is that nail will wander off the side of the driver, and you won't drive it completely without the nail and the washer falling off. But then again, too, you need to be able to release that. You need to overcut slot with a washer so that whenever you drive that, it doesn't get stuck in that slot. If not, what'll happen is whenever you drive that thing in, you'll pull your driver out and the washer will come right back up with it. There has to be some play in those drivers or the system will never work. Yeah, and I mean it's different situations definitely call for different things. Like Chris said, all his woodland trapping he uses anchors. So I mean, that's you'd probably never think of using a disposable anchor. So it's all different. Different situation for different areas that you're trapping to. So just go out and figure out what's the best and what's the most efficient for you.
Yeah, I've even had some situations out in the swamp and stuff, trapping coyotes. I've had to put 3 or 4 disposables in, kind of like the old days of cross staking, to get it to hold, but it worked. So you can multi-stake with disposables also.
Almost definitely. And I always tell this story just because everybody laughs at the power of the disposables. And I used to trap off a 4-wheeler before I bought my UTV, and it was a 4-wheel drive Honda 4-wheeler. And I was going across the field one day, and it was fairly wet, fairly muddy, and the rear differential stripped out on my 4-wheeler. And I was going across the field hauling, and I heard a clunk, and I had it in 2-wheel drive at the time. All of a sudden, I wasn't going anywhere, and so commenced to locking the thing in 4-wheel drive, and I had a front-wheel drive 4-wheeler for a time, and that recall, especially whenever you're running, you know, as big of a line as I was. And about an hour later, I got the thing stuck in the middle of this pick bean field, front-wheel drive. It was I wasn't going anywhere. And what I ended up doing, I had a winch on the front of the 4-wheeler, but I took 4 2-inch pogos and I cross-staked them in 4 different directions, and I pulled that 4-wheeler out. And I mean, it was pretty much stuck. I mean, granted, I wasn't in 4-wheel drive, but I pulled that 4-wheeler out with the winch with 4 cross-staked pogos. So the power of those things is really incredible when used right.
Yeah, that sounds like a good way to do it, Pennsyltucky. Right on the money.
Yeah, and Yoke Trapper here, he commented on he broke his pogo driver and he welded a grade 8 bolt. Yeah, that's the definite way to go. For those of you making your drivers, unless you can find uh, hot roll or something that's real hard, you're going to end up with mild steel anyway. And I have a video on I think it's called Modifying a Pogo Driver, where I actually do the same thing. I take a grade 8 bolt and weld it in and make a new tip for a driver. So that's always the first thing that'll go on those Pogo drivers. Is what'll happen is that it'll separate like where that slot is for the washer to sit in. So the harder material you can have, the better. You know, if a person was able to find a piece of stainless rod and make a driver out of that, that'd even be better yet. But what would you guys say, just off the top of your head, what would you guys say that the one tool is, whether you bought it or you made it or anything, whether it be for fur handling or trapping or anything? What would you say the one tool is that's changed the way you've done things the most? I mean, if you could pick one.
I'd have to say the best tool in the box is your noggin. The more you use that, the less work you got to do.
Well, I have found the sod busters have been a big help. You know what I mean? Because all them thinner little shovels there, they always bend and they're always broke. And the best way to dig a dirt hole is with the sod buster.
Yeah, I agree. That was such a great idea when they come out with those. I've actually had pretty good
and on that, I'll say.
Go ahead.
Or go ahead, Steve.
I've actually had pretty
No,
good.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I've had pretty good luck with an old-fashioned brick hammer before they come out with sod busters. The only drawback on it is it's got a square head on it, and if you miss the end of your stake and whack your knuckle, you're bleeding for definite.
Help to improve your set.
Yeah, and on the line of the hammers, I don't know. I mean, this is a time to share things, but with your sod busters especially, do any of you guys have problems whenever you're digging in semi-frozen ground or frozen ground, having all that dirt come right back at you due to the fact of the angle on on your sod buster, it just throws everything back at you.
Yes, and slightly frozen ground, yes.
Yeah, I've had a little grit in my mouth, personally.
Yeah. Well, I showed this I showed this hammer in a video earlier this year, and I started using it late last year, and I wanted to give it a good test before I gave it a positive review or not. But it's made by the Eastwing company, which, you know, the Eastwing hammers they're solid steel shanked hammers, made in the USA. They're really good quality hammers, but they have what's called a Fireside Friend, is the name of the hammer, and it's a 4 or 4.5 pound hammer. It's on I think it's a 16 or an 18-inch solid steel handle, but the head of this thing is like a splitting maul, only it comes to a much more rapid point than a splitting maul.
Oh, I remember seeing that.
And I saw that last year, and yeah, and I mean, I do a lot of dirt holes in frozen ground. That's whenever I really target the coyotes, is whenever it gets real cold. And I mean, that was always my biggest gripe with the hammers. And I'd made a bunch of them over the years, you know, playing with the different of the wedge and the cutting edge, basically. You know, I had some that was facing out even, just to try to get that spray of dirt, you know, knocked right back at you. Because a lot of times I wear hip boots, or a version of them. They're briar-proof hip boots, and that's the first thing that would happen is whenever you go to dig that trap bed, you'd just fill them boots full of dirt, and then you'd stand up and you'd have to, you know, deal with that all day or dump your boot. But if you can imagine a splitting maul style of head as opposed to the head of, you know, the standard sod buster, what it does is it literally throws the frozen material to the side of you. And you know, it's a little different to get used to. You have to use more of a scooping action on digging the bed, but once you become proficient with it, I mean, it is just an awesome tool, you know, to deal with your frozen or semi-frozen ground. So for those of you out there that do that, I would highly suggest checking it out. They're not cheap by any means, but you're talking about an American-made quality tool. So
But it could
that's
be
my
handmade too.
little go for that. Oh, most definitely, it could be handmade. But just to change that angle was just a lifesaver. You know, having that material thrown off to the side, you know, just is second to none. So, but yeah, most definitely. If a guy wanted to spend enough time on it, yeah, you could make something that was just as good, if not better.
Yeah, that was the first thing I noticed about using that brick hammer back in the day, is it didn't spit the stuff in my face like the sod buster. But it's a bit underweight.
Yeah, and that was the problem I had, and I even went, and I like you, Steve. I used a brick hammer. I bet I have a dozen or 14 different hammers. I could lay them out and they'd be a half a mile long of all the different designs that I mean, I'm big on modifying my stuff, and I was always trying to find the perfect hammer, you know. And I still don't think there is one, because I to this day, I carry two different hammers. I carry a big 4-pounder for my canine trapping, and I carry a smaller, uh, you know, an 18-ounce hammer for my coon trapping and smaller critters, just because I don't want to have the weight, and it's not necessary. But like I said, I went with the brick hammer, and I even added weight to the thing. And a lot of problems with the brick hammer too is you have the short handle on it, so
Yeah.
you really can't get that good swing, you know. But no, it does work real good. But after trying this hammer I spoke of, I even went as far as I went and bought a shingler's hammer, and it's basically a hatchet is what it looks like. Just it's got a bigger head on it, but it's got the same type of, you know, vertical blade on it. to throw the material out to the side, and those are the two that I carry. I carried for the most part this year, and I can only say good things about them.
I just carry plastic buckets on my four-wheeler, Watson, and I have a wooden box made for the back. And most times when I'm dirt holing, I'm only 2 feet away from the four-wheeler, so I don't worry much about weight or.
Yeah, Chris, I bet you
But
really got to look for a spot
getting back
to
to
put in a stake.
yeah, I imagine living on the rock.
Yeah, they call it rock for a reason.
But like I said, getting back to the things that changed or been the most beneficial to you or whatnot, um, I I I can kind of narrow it down to two things, and one being in the fur shed and one being in the field. But I think the thing that changed things the most for me is whenever I started wearing bags into the field. I have just a cheap pair of carpenter's bags that I carry basically everything I need into the field. Um, they're not like the bags that I wear to work. I wear bags for work all the time, and they're big, wide bags, you know, where you can easily access things. These here, they're smaller, they're tighter to you, so they don't get caught on the brush. But I carry everything from pan covers, underalls, stakes, staples. You know, I have my hammers, my pliers, all my adjustment tools, everything in those bags. And the weight really isn't that substantial like you think. Which, I mean, I carry bags on a daily basis, so I mean, I'm used to it to a degree. But just the simple fact of whenever you make a set and you have those bags on, and it's muscle memory, you can grab without looking. And you know, a pack basket's great, and I still carry a pack basket, but I don't have all these things in this pack basket because what's the first thing that happens whenever you need something and it's in your pack basket? It's in the very bottom of the pack basket. So you're sitting there and you're going to dump the thing out on the ground, you know, right out of set. You're dumping it all out, searching for your things. With the bags, you can, it's all muscle memory. Everything's right there. It's all in one place, and it speeds things up so much. You know, I mean, if you can get out 2 more sets a day, guys, then you know that's well worth it in my opinion. And like I said, it's all about speed and efficiency with this trapping thing, especially if you're going for numbers. Um, and then as far as my other tool, I would have to say my skinning machine setup that I put, and I've got a video on it. I've had it for years, but um, and it's not enjoy skinning things by hand. It's not that, but you know, the more time that's spent out in the field, the better. And you know, it saves your hands. You know, being able to use a skinning machine at the end of the day, whenever you've got a big pile of critters there, it saves your hands and everything else. It's um, with my skinning machine set up the way I have my clamping system, everything's done right at eye level. There's no bending down or bending over a table or anything, so you're not being as fatigued near as bad whenever you've got a pile of critters there. So, I mean, those are the two things that I would consider, you know, what has changed trapping for the better for me. So.
Yeah, it's a good way to keep track of your stuff too. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times I'll jump off a four-wheeler and run in the woods with just my hands swinging, or a pair of pliers or a safety gripper or something, and end up leaving it behind. You know, and then you go to your next set, and then you haven't got it, and you say, "Oh my God, where is it? You know, did I lose it or?"
Yeah, you got to get
Oh
into the
yeah.
good
And I
habit of
paint
putting
all my
everything back.
tools.
Like when I'm going trapping, if you know a fellow needs a pair of pliers, well, I need 6. That's the kind of guy I am. And the same thing with safety grippers. I gotta have one on the 4-wheeler and one in the truck and one in the skidoo and one in each pocket, and you know what I mean. And oh my God Almighty!
Yeah, me too. I have to double up on everything at least.
And how many times did I leave my J hook or my trap setters behind trapping beaver? And I wasn't going to walk in back in to get them, you know, once I got up to the truck or the car or the 4-wheeler or whatever it was.
Yep.
So they stayed there the next time.
Yep, you can't deny it. You got to get to know yourself.
Yeah, always have 2 of everything, and I paint all my tools either pink or red or something that contrasts the environment I'm in.
They're all good NH. You just find what you like and go with it. Everybody's got their own system.
Yep.
I myself, I like can covers.
I still use good old-fashioned wax paper.
You know, that's what's been working for me for many, many years, and I don't need to change.
Yeah, and I use underalls for all my canine trapping, and I use a trapper's cap my like my 1.5 for my dirt hole sets for Coon. Um, I it's just the way I can. With a Coon set, I think he's more apt to find something if he can. You know, they're more apt to dig at a trap, and you know, with the underalls, if he digs at that and he pulls that pan out, then he's more apt to flip that trap. Um, it's it's really personal preference. I personally am not a big fan of pan covers in general. I've been through it all. I've used the wax dirt. I've used the screen covers, steel, mesh, fiberglass, all of it. And my biggest problem is the amount of rain that we get here in a year. I have to be able to really, really pack that trap in solid, or else if I have any kind of cavity underneath it, the first rain we get, it settles, and then the outline of the trap can be seen. So,
Right.
but like Timber said, it's really personal preference, and I think more than personal preference, it's what you have confidence in. Because if you're making a quality set to begin with, then by all rights, it should be nothing should change from whether you're using one or the other. But I think the biggest thing is what you have confidence in.
Yeah, absolutely. If you walk away from a trap you just set and you don't feel right about it, then you know you're doing something you don't agree with. So I would suggest, you know, set a trap with each and see which one works the best in your area. Hey Watson, if you're having trouble in cold weathers with the springs on your DPs, why don't you give the Freedom brand a try, where all you got to do is squeeze it. They got the big square pad on it, and they set all by themselves. You can also throw it on the ground and step on it, or put your knee on it to set it. So it might help you in the cold weather.
Yeah, and I mean, like we see coming across the comment board, some people prefer peat moss, some people prefer leaves. Um, it's there's many different ways. I, I will say one thing for those of you using organic matter. Uh, if you're dealing with freezing and thawing conditions, make sure that 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 you're still preventing that trap from freezing. I, I, I myself learned the hard way from this, um, especially if you're dealing with temperatures that are above during the day. Uh, peat moss especially can give you this false indication of of quality trap setting because it will freeze if it's not dried proper. Peat moss will still absorb moisture, so it should be dried and sifted before you use it. Number one, but especially if you're using it just run of the mill without doing any of that, peat moss will freeze at night, freeze your trap down, which is whenever most critter activity is. Then during the day, the sun hits that trap. That steel will warm up quicker than anything else around and ground. It will thaw that bed out, and then whenever you come and check that set, it will give you the false indication that your set's working because it will be thawed. But then as soon as the temperatures drop below freeze night, that trap will freeze right back in. So, uh, I use peat moss early in the year and in real wet conditions. Uh, I don't near as much as I used to. I found a cheap enough and economical enough way to mass produce my waxed dirt now. So, but I used peat moss for years, and these are just a few things that I've learned by using peat moss. So, just remember that whenever you are using uh, that type of method.
Here's a little helpful hint when you were talking about freezing. Don't take your traps out of a nice warm truck or out of a nice warm shed or garage and then put them in the frozen ground. Uh, they'll just cause a thaw around it and make frost and freeze in. Usually when winter comes around, I store all my trapping gear outside, underneath a carport or something like that. So at least the metal is the same temperature as the ground, plus or minus a few. That kind of helps the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that also works good for muzzle loaders. Don't bring them in and out of the warm house and then out in the sub-zero weather.
Yep. Yeah, because honestly, I think that where most people, I mean, it takes quite a bit of experience to figure the freezing and thawing out. I really think that aside from just torrential rain and a super moist conditions, that freeze and thaw is really the biggest downfall to the people, as far as having their sets not working or disabled. I mean, you can make the most beautiful, the perfect set, perfect location, everything, but if that trap freezes in the ground, you're not going to catch anything.
Most of us use disposable stakes there, Andrew.
Well, guys, if you're dirt holing in a hardwood forest and there's lots of leaves on the ground, there's nothing wrong with using leaves to keep it natural.
Yeah, great way to blend it.
Yes, I do, Pencil Tucky.
as far as waxing DPs, you know, I run a ton of them, and I see no benefit in waxing them. You know, you can if you want. There's no harm in it, but you know, if you're worried about speed, you know, as far as your DP, just set them on a hair trigger. You know, you can set that dog proof. You don't have to put that dog all the way down in that dog. You can set it a halfway or a third of the way or whatever, and you can set it on more of a hair trigger. But uh, for for time and efficiency, I would rather see my dog proofs painted some sort of odd color. I prefer white. They stand out, and that's, I mean, you know, a dog proof is a trap that you want the coon to find. For the most part, coons are not that apt to smell as other critters. So I spray paint my stuff a month before season comes in, let them sit outside, and that's the way I go. And I mean, I catch lots and lots of coons every year on it. So I mean, but I mean, you know, to each your own on that deal.
You know, on a DP, I was thinking about that. I'd be worried about waxing them just to have the lubricant down in. You know, wax will work as a lubricant, and I'd be worried about that little skinny bar pushing against that pipe, and the coon be able to slip his wrist out of there.
It could be. I mean, just to go with what you said, I use in the warmer weather. It doesn't work very good whenever it gets cold. It has its time and place, but I use a lot of bacon grease in my set with my DPs, and I use it for the simple reason is if you've ever got bacon grease on anything and tried to get it off, you know what a pain in the ass it is. That stuff stays forever, and that's why it's such a good has a good use in a dog fur. Even if that dog fur cleaned out, say by mice, the smell and everything of that still there. And so, I mean, to kind of go on what you said, I would consider bacon grease a, a hell of a lubricant, basically. And I've never seen any problems with coons, you know, pulling out, you know, as far as that being said. So I mean, you know, like I said, to each your own. But I mean, it's something, you know, I've got some experience with. So I mean, I'll just say that for it.
Works for me.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I was just thinking about it. It seems like that wax on that, you know, that little round bar would be coated with wax. The holding bar, the wrist bar, I guess you'd call it.
yeah, and I mean, honestly, I mean, if you're lucky to get, whenever I spray paint my dog proofs, I'm lucky to get a catch. I'm lucky to get two catches, I should say, off of a dog proof before that thing's back to bare metal, especially if you're trapping in anywhere that has sand. Uh, those coons are so hard on those traps that I really don't think wax would last that long. I mean, I think it would, you know, like I said, if you were in sand especially, I think it would be gone after the first catch. So, I mean, wax them if you want, but, you know, you're paying for the wax and the time to do it for not much, if anything, in my opinion.
There's no reason to wax dog-proof traps. These are raccoons we're talking about. They're not coyotes.
You see what Scott wrote up there?
No, it's gone. You'll have to read it.
Pennsylvania Trapper wrote on there, glow-in-the-dark paint, question mark. I'd be willing to...
I painted mine gray and I painted mine white, and it really didn't seem to make much of a difference. But I've also bought some glow-in-the-dark ribbon that I paid a lot of money for that does not glow in the dark.
Yeah, I wonder how glow-in-the-dark paint, how long it would last after sundown. Probably, you know, half hour, an hour maybe. But that is an interesting idea.
Well, like I said, I mean, I don't know how much glow-in-the-dark paint costs, but like I said, I buy the 96-cent cans at Walmart, and that's what I spray paint my stuff with. And like I said, if you're in anywhere that has sand, it's not going to last. So, you know, I mean, I don't know if it'd be, you know, beneficial cost-wise to do it either.
96 cents for a can of paint. Well, my mind is made up. I'm going to pack the truck there later on tonight.
Send me some.
Because here you can't get a little can of paint under $5.
Well, that's real. Yeah, that's real cheap paint, mind you. That's not Rust-Oleum or Krylon or anything, but it does serve the purpose.
Do coons even see glow in the dark? Another question. That'd be kind of interesting to try something with a glow stick this summer out in the backyard.
Well, I will say this on the guide, glow in the dark. What I have tried was I worked in the construction industry, and if you guys have ever been driving down the road and you see a construction zone, you see the temporary reflective tape where they'll stripe the roads. It's actually a tape, and it's temporary. It's made by 3M and a couple other manufacturers, but it has some really good reflective properties in it. The Class 3 stuff does, and I've tried that on a lot of my dog proofs. I've just wrapped them, you know, and with the idea that maybe with the moonlight, you know, you get a little little reflective or something, and some attractive properties to it. And you know, running as many dog proofs as I do, I kept track, and I never really saw an increase in catch by it. Not only that, but even with the good stuff, using the good glue and everything, that tape still did not last more than a few coons. And you know, I mean, that's what you got to remember is what's your time worth, you know, and the money you're putting into this stuff. If you're gonna go to all that trouble, just make sure you're set on location, and that's the best way to go. I mean, if you're on location, they're gonna find it anyway. So
yeah, coon's not going to run all the way across the field to get into your DP. You got to put it in their face.
But you know, guys, too, down at the dollar store, they got them their mini flashlights, 5 in a pack there for $1. You could stick them down in your DPs too and try it, see what would work.
Sure.
well, see, you've got flashlights 5 for $1. So see, there you go. I don't think we have that around here. So I'll trade some spray paint for some 20-cent flashlights.
They're small though, Stuart. They're like a ring, you know, that goes on your hand.
Yeah.
That's the poor people's wedding ring.
Maybe I need to try those.
Look at the shine.
There you go. Cubic zirconium.
Yeah.
Yeah, and guys, we've mentioned this before with dog proofs, and I've stated this time and time again in my videos. A dog trap, the dog proof critter to find this trap. There is no need to hide it. There is no need to bury it. There is no need to cover it up. There is no need to do anything except for place it directly in the path of travel of a coon. You need him to find that trap to get caught. So unless you're in an area, you know, where you have you know, thieving or robbery of an issue, you make that thing stand out as much as possible.
Yeah, Pennsylvania makes a good point.
Uh,
Don't overthink it. Just put it in their face and do whatever you need to do to. I mean, you could put the darn thing on the top of a log and wire it sideways if you wanted to.
Well, now that being said, too, you know, the question was asked: do you put them at an angle or straight up or whatnot? And I have found that, you know, if you ever come up to a dog proof and it's laid over on its side and not triggered, it's because you're in too loose oil. The critters pulled the trap up out of the ground and then they didn't mess with it. And that is truly a thing that I've experienced quite a bit of. Once that trap's laying down loose on the ground, those coons have a tendency to not mess with it as much. Whether it be that they still try to dig at it, but because there's no tension for them to pull the trigger, they don't get caught. Maybe that's it. Or if it just doesn't please them, you know, by being straight up and down. But I always set my dog proofs. I just set them straight up and down in the ground, and I've never had any problems. Where we'll run problems is if you're setting in like sand and they're able to pull that trap up out of the ground before they trigger it, and it's laid over and they leave it alone after that.
You push them down deep.
I push them all. I mean, I bottom out the stake. You know, I mean,
yeah.
Because you don't want to. You don't want to
twist.
You still want that dog to fire.
Why don't you come and get some, Chris, and populate your island? I'll live cage a couple pairs for you. Yep, you can take them some possums too. You're right there, Aiden.
Here was a question about using the DP caps, and the question was, do you think that it deters coons from working the trap? I have used everything from baby food jars to golf balls to the little styrofoam cups, and the one thing I'll say about all that is if you have mice, you're going to have mice for the duration of the length that you set that trap. Once they find it, they're always going to be there. If you want to pack around styrofoam cups, if you want to pack around golf balls, if you want to do all this, go for it. Will it keep the mice out? Yes. Will it, will it deter coons? Not near as much, no. But, it's another thing you got to pack around. And if you use a good bait and a good marshmallow and set them on sign, you're going to catch the coons. If not, move them to a different location. But once you find a spot that has mice in it, you'll have mice for the duration of that set.
But not every set you're going to have mice trouble with. Some will be extremely
It's just
bad.
something you got to pack around.
I've got spots where I set weasel boxes, and the weasel never gets a chance because the mice are in the box.
Outdoor, you must have missed what Pennsylvania Trapper wrote. That's what I was laughing at. And you can't be too serious of a trapper. You got to lighten up a little bit. It'll drive you crazy if you get too serious. You got to learn to laugh at your screw-ups, right?
Oh, I laugh all the season then, because I have lots of screw-ups.
Good slap up beside your own head once in a while.
All my gotta laugh at all my screw-ups.
And always take a minute to look around.
Yep. Aiden, I wish we could use the power snares here. The only place I can use snares is on private ground, and they can't actually choke down the animal. They're basically restraining leashes.
Cable restraint?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't snare at all. I mean, we can snare beaver in the water, but that's it. No land. So I don't deal with any of that.
Now you know
No cable
everybody's
restraints or snares or anything.
everybody's blaming the coon hunters for that, right?
You know, I coon hunt on the same property that I have sets out, and I do it all season long. I've had my dog get in a trap. I've had him mess with them. I've had him caught, and he's still running on all fours right now.
Another good one there, Pennsyltucky. Success is a terrible teacher.
That should be a bumper sticker.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember strutting along after I got my first beaver. I had my thumbs under my arms, and I was strutting along. Thought I was the cock of the walk till I got to my next 330, and it was set off, and the safeties were left on. Wah, wah.
Them safeties are there for a reason, Steve.
That's right. You got to keep the beaver safe. Yeah, I agree there, Busy Bayman. I wish we could use them here. That's kind of funny. The northern guys want a dirt hole, and we all want a snare.
Yeah, I just think snares they work in so many more adverse conditions as opposed to a foothold, though.
Heck yeah.
I mean, you could get so many more extra days of sets that are working, you know, as opposed to a standard foothold. But a lot of people, you know, a lot of the northern guys too. You guys don't have to deal with near the freeze and thaw. You know that once it gets cold up there, most it usually stays cold. You know, we just don't have that.
Hey, Timber, are snares a little bit less likely to freeze up than a regular foothold?
Well, that depends really how close you are to the water and what kind of locks you're using.
Okay.
Because when you're close to the water, you get a lot of vapor mist in the air.
Sure.
And if you use a mechanical lock, that lock will freeze more.
So the snare might pull down, but it won't lock up, but it just relax?
Oh, most times it won't pull down either.
Oh, okay.
And just to touch on that for a second, you know, I've been trapping a long time, and I've used 7x7 cable, and I have used 1x19 cable. And 1x19 cable will hold a loop a lot better, and it'll take a good windstorm to spring that snare on you. But a lot of times the animal will walk right through that snare and not get caught because it's so hard to spring. Now 7x7 will drop down right away, you know what I mean? But in a windstorm they will all spring themselves, and then you got to go set them over again. So there really is no win-win, you know what I mean?
Right. So you're saying the 7x7 is softer?
Yeah.
Kind of? More limp?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Good evening, Lake Life. Thanks for stopping by.
Just a touch before I forget, but the comment was asked a couple of times about the Coon grabbers that are available, and for those of you, they're little rubber devices basically that you set in the bottom of a dog proof, and it's supposed to, I believe they're scented, and it's supposed to add a little bit of feel in this to the dog proof. I myself have never used them. I use marshmallows speared on the mechanism of a dog proof, the trigger, and I've looked at the price of the Coon grabbers, and I can buy a lot of marshmallows for what those cost, and I don't have to worry about looking for them if they get pulled out or destroyed or anything. So no, I personally don't have any experience with them, but I use marshmallows speared on the trigger with great success. So I don't know if either of you guys used it. The question was asked several times. So
and then you always got something to snack on too.
Yeah. Energy food. Now,
well, for the first day or two.
I just wanted to ask you on that.
After that, you don't want to eat them.
Coon Creek, do you use them fresh out of the bag, or do you let them stale up a little bit? Marshmallows.
No, well, I guess both would technically be an answer, because I start off the season with a fresh bag, and then I use it till it's gone, and I don't keep it in a Ziploc bag. My bait caddy, I have a spot for it right there in my bait caddy, and the bag just stays open until it's gone. So some are fresh and some are not so fresh. So I usually eat a few whenever I first open the bag, and then I don't eat any more because it's not so good after that. But no, I mean, I've not seen anything where it's better or worse by having stale or fresh.
Anyway, guys, a question come up there a little while back. How much bait do you put in your DPs? We'll let you go first, Stuart.
Just enough to cover the trigger is what I would suggest. There is no reason to make that coon stay there any longer than he be to get that trigger pulled. The longer he stays there, the longer another coon might try to fight him. I've seen this a lot on trail cam videos. So just give him just enough to get him interested. He reaches down there, he grabs that trigger, and he's caught. Don't fill the thing up.
Now you see mine, I just go level with the trigger. That's all I do.
Be my opinion.
With cat food or dog food, I don't go over. I just go level with it.
Yep.
But my homemade dog proofs, I also put little grooves in the bottom side of the trigger so the raccoon can get his little fingers in it and get a hold of it easier.
Like little half-circle finger grippers?
Yeah, something like that.
That makes sense. Yeah, I go even with a trigger too, and then I'll sprinkle just like 5 or 6 around on the ground so maybe he can get a little taste. Plus it might help spread the scent. I was always worried about him grabbing for the trigger and it just be kind of stuck on top of the bait and not being able to move.
And it saves a lot on bait too. You do not need to fill your trap right up.
Sure. And there comes out the cheap again. We're all cheap, economical.
Well, it's not so much a cheap thing as it's not necessary. I mean, you know, I divvy out my DP bait with just it's a dollar store. It's just a like one size bigger than average spoon. You know, it's just the cheap one. And I mean, you got to figure the way I bait my DPs, and I bait them all the exact same way. Once you spear that big marshmallow on her, you substantial part of the bottom of that dog proof. So you take a half a scoop or a half a spoonful, and that's all you need in a dog proof. You know, if you've got a good bait, you know, there, the visuals there, everything's there. There's really no need for more.
Yeah, you only have to bait for one coon. There's no sense of filling it up. Shoot, he might get full before he gets down to the trigger and move on.
Yeah, you can't be having that.
All right, Steve, take that question away.
What's that, Nate?
Yeah.
Usually for DPs, I go to the good old dollar store and buy the cheap cat food, the little dry stuff, you know, the little pieces, little chunks, and then I'll put just like in a bag full, the little $5 bag. I'll put, you know, 6 or 7 drops of liquid smoke in there and shake it around real good. Or, you know, you could add anything to it that you want. Personally, I don't like sticky, but that's about it. And then sometimes I'll put a little coon lure on the outside with some, if it smells real strong, with anise. You know, it may pull in that extra foot or so.
Why is the fur prices so low? Because the Russians haven't got any money.
I agree. That's one of the main reasons. They buy most of our raccoons.
You know, they need like 55 or 60 rubles to make one American dollar.
I guess China's hurting too, I hear.
Well, that, and I mean, you're talking just the world economy in general, but the Chinese government also started tax. Didn't used to be. Uh, they used to pay so much to bring a pelt into the country. There was a lot of tanneries that weren't paying that. You know, the government up with them and fined them and got caught up on that. Just the world economy in general is the reason. We always say watch oil prices, just because you know oil is another one of those commodities that's dictated heavy by the world economy as far as price. So, you know, whenever you see oil go up, fur prices will go up. And a lot of it is supply. There's a lot more supply than there is demand right now. Uh, Fur in general is not near as fashionable as what it used to be. So with the amount of fur coming in and being trapped every year, there's a lot that's got no use basically. You know, everybody used to wear hats and you know top hats and coats and everything of that nature, and now nobody does anymore.
Yeah, America was pretty much built on sheared beaver top hats.
Yeah, I mean the country was settled. I mean, you can basically say because of that, and you know that is no longer the case. So, I mean, there is not one main thing. There is a whole bunch of little things that all add up to being the reason.
Yeah, Busy Bayman added that the winters have been kind of mild too over the last few years. And Andrew,
Yeah,
to
yeah. I mean, it's
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Andrew, to follow up on that pocket set bait, you see I wrote in there fish or something with a good smell. You could throw a handful of dry cat food in there just to keep him at your set longer. You know, if he gets a little taste of it, the longer he's at your set, the more apt you are to catch him.
And another thing too about the fur prices, don't forget, you know, there's a half a million raccoons being harvested every year that need some place to go.
Yeah, it keeps building up. Right, Coon Creek?
Yeah, I think there's more than 500,000, honestly. I think last year was closer. If I recall, I think it was closer to 1.4 million. So, I mean, and I personally, and I've said this before, and I mean, I'll say it again, I blame a lot of it on improperly handled fur. Uh, you know, back in the day, everything was handled right because nobody sold finished. Everybody sold green. You know, in this day, everybody wants to go through and do it all themselves, and there's a lot of improperly handled fur going through the pipeline, and you know, there's just no market for that, and it just keeps adding up and adding up and adding up. So, I mean, there's many different things, but
Yeah, Watson carp is a very good fish to bake fish oil. They have a lot of grease in them, or oil. Fat, excuse me.
yeah, the fattier the fish, the better for making oil.
Yeah, and you don't even need a fishing pole to catch them. Just ride the boat down the river and let them jump in.
Just hold your net up and go.
That is true.
Hey, Nadjuan.
Hey, Mike.
See, Pennsyltucky said he uses carrot shavings at his pocket sets with pretty good success. He says the orange color has good eye appeal. That could work.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you're also talking about a potential multi-species set there. Uh, you know, I over the years I have taken every water critter that we have in a pocket set or some form of it. You know, coons especially, they'll eat anything, anything from carrots to fish to you know, to meat base to fish bait. So I mean, they're not picky. You bait with carrots, like you said, you've got the possibility of picking up the muskrats, throw a little beaver catcher alongside of it, and I mean the pocket set is a pretty universal water type set. Just the biggest thing with doing this is just set for the biggest beaver you can because there's a good potential that he could potentially get in that set. So
Have a good one, Chris.
yep, take care, buddy. Glad you joined us.
Nadjuan?
Nadjuan.
How to pronounce that?
I see he's got a big A on there.
Yeah, that's a Canadian thing.
Hey. Oh yeah, yeah. I guess we've got the y'all down here. Is that what it is?
All y'all.
You guys got the A. Yeah, but about it is you guys say A, and I get every time I go to Canada fishing. Whenever you say, so I don't know if you're making a statement or asking a question, because depending on how you put that A, it could either be a question or a statement, and I don't know how to react a lot of times. So maybe the Canadian here could clear that up for me. How does that work?
Well, a lot of people just like, you know, want to show they're Canadian, you know what I mean, and they put A on the end of a sentence. And I mean, it's not as popular as it used to be. Now it's guy and mate and dude, and but one time it used to be A all the time. You know, like, how's your truck running, eh?
See, that's definitely a question.
See, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's confusing, is what it is.
Oh yeah, Stuart, congratulations on your 10,000 subscribers.
Holy smokes.
Oh yes, thank you.
Oh, that's why it's his last show. Now he's
Yes, thank you very much.
When I get that money, we're all gonna get that many. We're all gonna get together and have a little party.
There you go.
I'll meet you halfway.
Yeah. There you go. I'll be right about Lake Michigan. So.
Well, that's funny. I'm right about halfway.
Yeah, and thank you. Yeah. Yeah, no, I did. I wanted to say thank you to everybody. You know, I mean, I've been doing this now for almost 4 years, so it's kind of cool to be. I mean, I never thought I'd hit anything like that, so I appreciate, you know, all the support and all the subscribers and everything. So.
Yeah, there you go. In the U.S., they just put the A on the front of the sentence instead of the back. Hey, don't lean on my car.
Yeah.
Some places it's car. Yeah, I worked with a lady when I lived down in New Orleans, and she was from Canada, and she talked just as American as anybody, and we used to poke her in the ribs once in a while, and she'd lay it on thick. It was awesome. Start talking about
Awesome.
hockey and pucks, and she was our entertainment for a minute.
Yep, take her easy, Mike.
You know, HRM toothpaste might work at a beaver set with the mint, or even a cat set. You never know. Try whatever comes through your mind. You might just stumble onto something. Then you could be a millionaire. Eh? Don't get me started. Yeah, I agree, Watson. Red Fox lure is great for coon because it seems like every time I put in a Red Fox set, I get a coon. CoinNut wants to know where you go fishing at in Canada, Stu.
I've been to a few different places, but mainly where we keep going year after year is Lake of the Woods. We go about an hour north of the border and take off there at Morrison. So we're not into Canada too awfully far, but about an hour into the border or so.
Got a nice compliment there from Derek A. He says your fur handling videos really helped him out because this was his first year putting up his own fur.
Well, that's good. I appreciate that. That's the reason that I put the videos up there. Like I said, I started basically putting videos up that I wished were out there whenever I started trapping. So I'm sure glad it helps people.
Usually, Andrew, on my DPs, I just use any good commercial coon lure. Usually, I open it up in the store and smell it. If it smells like anise, boy, I have trouble with that word. If it smells like anise, it usually works for me. Actually, I think I'm going to switch over and go to the health food store and just get anise oil and make up my own.
Now, have you found, Steve, that with your that you have more problems with mice?
Unless I'm in a field, we don't have too many mice around. So, no, I haven't really noticed it. And actually, I don't care if a mouse gets in there anyhow. I'll just rebait it and move on.
Yeah. No, I just and this is just coming from experimentation and personal experience, but I used to run anise in my bait, and I was finding I had a lot of cleaned out by mice and had a lot of mouse activity. Trying to what was really attracting the mice, and so I started mixing just anise oil from the spice cabinet at the grocery store, and I was mixing that with just cheap syrup and using it just to try to find out. And I basically, what I come to a conclusion was that the heavier anise smell seemed to attract more mice to my sets. So I've kind of slowly got away from using it so much, but I didn't know if it was just my particular area or if anybody else had experienced that type of trouble. But it took a long time to kind of isolate what was really doing the big part of attracting the mice.
Right. You're pretty analytical there, Coon Creek.
Let's see. Yes, there was a question if I'm going to make a video. I'll do a video. I've had lots and lots of requests for doing a split board coyote video since I made the other video. I'll try to get one out here in the near future. I know there's a lot of people asked for it, so.
It could be pronounced that way, rendezvous. I'm no English expert.
Some coyotes just stink.
Yep. No way around it. I do wash my coyote fur, and it does help some. Get some good smelling dish soap, but don't over soap them though. You'll be there for 3 days trying to get the suds out.
There, Coon Creek, that question's come
Oh,
up
here's a
lot of
question.
times.
I'll answer.
How many Bobcat?
Yeah, I
you let go?
just saw it.
Okay.
This year, I caught and released 4 bobcats. Due to my slowing down and trapping, it was less than last year, but catching that with no more sets than I had out, it just goes to show how many we have in the area. So, I'll just take this time. We're still trying here in Illinois to get the bobcat season and to finalize everything. Every so often you'll hear about something come up where they're trying. For those of you that are activists out there on the keeping the trapping thing going, I invite you to anytime you see anything to help us out, or even with your state, please go do it, because it's very apparent. We have plenty of bobcats around here. I catch them every year without even trying. So hopefully next year, we'll have a bobcat season, and hopefully we'll get a few legally caught. So.
Anyway, guys, I just want to take a minute and say that Timberline North will be taking the Wednesday night show over until Stort returns in the fall. And Stort will still come on when he's able to. He'll always have a key to join us. I'm going to try to put a team together, and the show will go on.
Woo woo! Had to put that in there.
Yeah, and you got other nights too that you're doing it also, right, Timber?
That's right, yeah.
I mean, other nights that you do your live streams. So, I mean, people can check that out also. So.
I can't see me going a full week without talking about trapping.
Withdrawals. I'll be putting out some beaver traps Saturday morning. Get it in while I can.
Yes, Andrew, I'm it depends how many people are into it. If it doesn't work out, I won't continue it. But if it does work out, I'll continue every Wednesday night. I'll take a storage spot. Go ahead, Sturt.
Yeah, and just to quickly join us in a little later. Tonight's going to be the last stream that I'm going to do here for a while. I've got work things coming up with the time change and everything else, so this is going to be the last one tonight. I had a blast doing this here. So, you know, we had pretty good support and turnout. So I appreciate everybody. And like I said, I'm gonna start back up, you know, in the fall. You know, once it gets closer to trapping season. We got started late this year. I really think it'd be beneficial, you know, to be doing these during trapping season. You know, where we can be there out and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I'll put up a notice. I'm in the fall, probably late October, November. We'll start back up with these. So, uh, like I said, it's because of everybody watching, you know, that we keep doing this. So we do appreciate it. But
Yeah, without you guys, we got nothing.
Hey there, Watson Outdoors. I would imagine you could use scent eliminator spray around your predator traps, but if you're putting out a bunch of traps, that might get a little costly. And plus, it may do something with your call lure. It might take the smell away from that too, I would be afraid of.
yeah,
So
I would just suggest being
any of you guys out there is not
you
subscribed
know,
to my
big on.
channel, Wednesday night there'll be the live stream will be popping up when it's going to start. And I also have a Saturday show too. I might as well put that in there while I'm talking. Saturday at 7 o'clock.
Yeah,
Is
and who
that
knows? I mean, come fall, we might have a bigger crowd. So
Thanks, Yote Trapper. You're awesome too for being on here.
Yep. Nice to be recognized.
I was going to sub you, but I already subbed you apparently. Yeah, everybody go check out NH Trapper's channel. He's got some good vids on there. Some good water trapping stuff.
Yep, good clear videos, well edited. And if I ever get as many subscribers as Coon Creek, we're all going to get drunk together. So don't forget the invite.
let's see. Yeah, Andrew, about baiting DPs again. You know, there's whatever method works for you, but my preferred method is I take one of the big marshmallows. I spear it onto the trigger, and then bait over top. You know, ideally the point is that the critter has to actually trigger the trap in order to get the marshmallow. So it's a pretty good system, and it seems to work well for me. So. But with that being said, unless you guys have anything to add, we'll give you guys just a couple more minutes to add anything, any other questions, and then we'll sign off here for the last time. So once again, I appreciate everybody coming on. So we'll definitely start doing this again back in the fall.
Hey there, Logan Scott. I see you said you finally made it on a live show. Are you talking about on video or in the chat room? Because if it's in the chat room, you can go to Timberline North, sub his channel, and then there's a little icon. What's it in between? It's at the top of the page. In between the bell and his icon, there's another, looks like a headlight or something. And if you click on it, it will open a little window with a box that says notify me about this channel. And it will pop up whenever they're live streaming, and you'll get a notice on your computer. You can do that about on any channel.
Or you can go right now where my name is there and right click on it, open up a new page, open it up and subscribe, and everything will be done.
Cool, Logan. What show was you on?
Let's see. Yeah, NH. No, we don't have any fishers out here in the prairie. They look like a really cool animal, but no, we don't even have them in my state. Not in the northern part either. So.
Thank you, Jabs family, for coming on. That's what makes it happen.
Is there any way to see the chat, guys? I think it closes after the video or after the stream's closed, didn't it?
Yeah, you
I'm
got
not sure on that one.
5 minutes. 5 minutes after we go off air,
Yeah.
it goes off air.
But don't you
I
usually
didn't think there's no way.
don't you usually post the video portion on your channel there, Coon Creek?
Yeah, but she wants to see the
I
chat,
post
not
the video portion. Video so you can rewatch it, and that's kind of the reasons why I try to repeat the questions before we answer them. That way, for those of you who don't have a chat, get an idea of what exactly we're answering or talking about. So.
Yeah, sometimes that does get awkward, but we try to repeat the questions when we're reading them.
You see, when streaming first started, they used to leave the chat in the side if you recorded your video to post it on YouTube, but they don't do that anymore. You got 5 minutes when the stream ends, and then you don't see it anymore.
All right. So anyway, guys, I'll sign off here for the last time, and like I said, you know, we'll be back on, or at least I will, towards trap season November. Timberline, he's gonna do his thing too, so you can stay with that. I'll be popping in here and there on other things as I can, but for the most part, this is summer, and hopefully we'll have better prices next year, so everybody get all revved up and prepared, and we'll see you guys back in the fall then.
So good night, everybody. Take care of yourselves.
See you guys at same time, different host. Hope we see you all back. I subbed most of you.
Yep, appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you later.
Take her easy.